Hello, my name is Delvin Molden, creator and producer of The Original OGs. In this special two-part series, you will not see our popular OG marquee stationed behind our guest. Why? Because as fascinating and unique and oddity as this story might be, it's also as tragic, hurtful, and painful to the family, friends, and community of the victim. Me, along with my producer partner, Mr. Rick, in no way want to use our platform to promote violence of any sort. But we also are committed to bring to you real stories, origin stories, from the men and women who actually live those lives. Today's story is no different. This story is very unique in a sense. We ask that you be patient and understanding. So please, like always, remember to like, subscribe, and share. I present to you the Puppet Master.
So hear what I say, for it is the truth you see. There can only be one, the original.
OG, two letters that define respect. Welcome to the original OGs. I created the original OGs to document the forgotten parts of American history. I want to recognize and give a voice to the men and women that have climbed to the top of their game. Believe me, the men and women that sit in front of this marquee have been authenticated as original OGs. My name is Mr. Rick. Welcome to my world, a world of the originals, the unique. Welcome to the original OGs. Welcome to the original OGs, and I'm your host, OG Mr. Rick. Today we have a fascinating interview for you. We'd like for you to take this journey with us and remember that it is a sensitive subject matter. We come to you with a person by the name of Chris, the Puppet Master. Very unique human being. I think you're going to enjoy his story, so we'll get started. How are you doing, brother?
I'm pretty good today, Mr. Rick. How are you feeling?
I'm fantastic, sir.
Excellent.
Where would you like to start your story?
Life teaches us to start from the beginning. So I would like to start with the death of my father, if you don't mind.
I don't mind, but let's back up a little bit. How about we start when you attempted to take your life?
Okay. When I started to take my life, it was in Attica. When I first arrived at Attica with a 30 to life sentence for murder in the second degree. When I walked into Attica, outside it looks like a haunted house, a place where Dracula would live in. I actually even saw a few bats flying around. But as we went in, they had just had a riot there about a couple of months before I was able to come there. So there was still material laying all over the floor and everything when they escorted me in and took me to A block. That was the reception block. And when I got there, each gallery have about 300 plus guys who live in units of 100 on this tier, first tier, second tier, third tier. And there's 100 guys that live there. And I came at a time where they was all locked in their cells. So you have nothing but music, Spanish, white, black, all types of music going on. Everyone shouting and yelling. It was like being at a concert without a band. It was only the people who had spent their money there.
Wow.
Then the CO, which they call them COs there, he said, crack 23. And that was my cell. my new home. And when I walked and looked at it, it was like, wow, crazy. I stood there for a minute, and the CEO, I guess he said, go ahead, step in. Attica's in New York,
Okay.
outside of Rochester, New York, outside of Buffalo. And that's where Attica Correction Facility also was where the Attica riot in 1971 had taken place, where about 36 to 38 inmates lost their lives and correction officers during that riot.
Okay.
So as I stood there and he told me to go in, I stepped in. The door was shut. And that's a feeling that you never forget, because when it slams shut, it makes you jump. It sounds like a shotgun just went off.
Wow.
As I stood there, I had a pillowcase. And inside the pillowcase, you got two sheets, a metal cup, toothpaste, toothbrush, a bar of soap, and a blanket, a wool blanket. And that's your property. Wow. And that's your property. You're responsible for it. So as time went by, I stood there for however many minutes, and I'm listening to the sounds and the echo. But then all of a sudden, my stomach started turning because the stench within inside the cell was crazy. I mean, I looked over at the toilet, and it was filthy. It actually had urine in it, and it corroded like stain. And this is porcelain, but whoever was there before me never flushed it or whatever, because it was just filthy, and I could actually smell urine. Then I looked at the sink. The sink wasn't no better off than the urinal. And it was filthy with spit,
Wow.
brown stain, and even had blood. I guess, I don't know from what, but it was blood. And right beside the toilet, the sink, is your bed. And the bed was made out of a mattress, and it was small, and it was filthy. There was no sheet on it, of course, because I had everything. And it had blood stain on the sheet. It even had feces, urine on the sheet, on the bed, the mattress itself. And everything stunk. I mean, I've been in outhouses down south in Kentucky that smell better than
Wow.
that particular cell that I was in. So I stood there, and then I'm saying to myself, they expect me to do 30 to life under these type of conditions. 30 to life, living in a cell like a caged animal. 30 to life as not a human being, but as a number. Because when I came through the reception area, they took my name from me, and they gave me a number, 80C0120.
Wow.
And you had to pronounce that. And then they might call you at your last name, which is Taylor. But you got to announce the 80C0120 first. Anytime they ask you a question, that's what you had to pronounce. So my name was replaced by a number, and that's what I had to go by. So I'm standing there saying, wow, look at this, talking to myself. Wow. So I said, I can't do it. I can't do it.
Wow.
There's no way in the world I'm going to do it. So now I took the time. I'm looking around. I'm looking at the bars up over the door. Because in my mind now, I'm going to bring this madman merry-go-round to a halt.
Okay.
That's exactly what I'm getting ready to do. So I put everything on the mattress. I poured out the sheet. And I went to twining it around.
The sheets.
Yes, the sheets. and I connected the second one to it. And now I'm looking for a place to hang it. And I found a spot. And as I stood there thinking, wow, are you actually going to do this? You're going to commit suicide? You're going to kill yourself?
Wow.
I was like, but I can't do this. Talking to myself in a third sense. And so finally I got up on the mattress. I had to tie the sheet. And I tied the sheet in the corner because I didn't want it to be exactly over the bed. I wanted so when I stepped off, I would land, I'd be hanging on the side of the bed because I didn't want to cower out and put my feet back on the bed and save myself. No, I didn't want no saving. So when I wrapped it up there and tied it, then I made a noose and I put that around my neck, sort of like this necktie. And I tied it, I tightened it up real tight. I tested, and all of a sudden then, as I was up high, and I was thinking all I'm going to do is just step off and just start dingling in the air with my feet and everything, just dingling. But as I stood there, looking around, actually, I was saying goodbye to my family, my kids, my mom. I was saying goodbye to them. I even said goodbye to my dog, Gypsy. And as I was standing there, a guy came by. He was the feed-up man and also a porter. Their job is to bring you food or to clean up after you. So he walked by and looked at me. He looked up, and I remember this clear as a day because I replay this in my mind every time I feel like giving up, every time I feel like letting go, and every time I want to go in the wrong direction. I replay what he said. He looked up at me and he said, you're not having a good day, are you? I just looked at him. He said, well, anyway, I brought your food to you. I'm going to put it over here on the gate. It's only bologna and cheese. He said, also, you got a milk. The milk might be a little warm because we was waiting on you to come in. He said, if I was you, I wouldn't eat the sandwich all at once. I would just eat a little bit at a time because you're not going to get anything else to eat until later on tomorrow morning. So I'm looking at him, looking down, and I'm saying to myself, why don't you just leave? So he looked at me, he's looking up, I'm looking down. Then I recognized him from someone from the county jail. And he said, listen, man, the man that I knew inside the county jail, he was stronger than this. Strong. I said, but I can't do it. He said, you can do it. He said, prison is not a place you come to kill yourself. It's a place you come to better yourself. It's a place you come to make amends for the wrong that you did. Now, there's some amends that you can't make up for, such as a life. And I do know that you took a life. But yet, you can change your life. He said, you're stronger than this. You can make it. I said, I can't make it. And I said, why don't you just go ahead and leave? He said, no, I'm not going to leave, but what I will do, I'm going to leave you an extra sandwich. So I'm going to give you 2 sandwiches and put them on the gate. He said, now I'm hoping that you take my words to heed and you'll step down without the noose around your neck and give it a chance. He said, listen, all the noise, it's like this every time they come in. It'll tone down. The smell, everything that's stint that's going on, you can clean it. The cell, you can clean the cell. I said, but there's blood stain, there's urine, there's even shit on the mattress and over here on the floor. He said, yeah, the guy that lived here before you, he lived that way. So, but I can bring you cleaning material. I can bring you stuff to clean it up. It doesn't have to stay this way. It doesn't have to stay this way. So I said, all right, could you just leave me in peace so that I could think it over? He said, sure. He said, all right. And he left. So I stood there for a minute. I'm looking around. And I knew he was right. I wanted to step down, but a part of me kept saying, no, step off. Don't step down, step off. I wanted to save myself, but I didn't know how. I wanted to do what I've heard guys say they've done when they was incarcerated, to educate themselves and build themselves up. But I was scared. I didn't know what to do. And even though I didn't know what to do, I knew stepping off that bed, there would be no do-over. There would be no rewind the tape. I knew it would be all over. So I thought about my mom. And actually, I thought about my dog, Gypsy. I said, wow, they're going to miss me. And then my mom's going to cry, and she done did enough crying over the crime that I committed. So I slowly took the noose around my neck off. I sat down on the bed, as filthy as it was, and I held my hand in my head like this. And I cried. I cried and I cried and I cried until snot, and that's one of them good cries. When snot come out, and yeah, that's how well I was crying. And that was when I was going to commit suicide.
Let me ask you. My mind tells me that while you were standing up there, that your mind was running through your life, your previous life. So that's a good place to go back in time, and you can tell me what it was like in your younger years.
Well, I have to start at the age of 5. My father, like most kids' father, is their hero. There's someone that they look up to. And I'm talking about a father who's a father to his children. I have to make that distinction. They may not be that good to your mother or their wives or their girlfriends, but to their children, he was very good to me. And he would take me everywhere he would go. And my father, whatever he said meant the world to me. My father couldn't lie, couldn't do no wrong in my eyesight, because he was bigger than a giant. And as I had said, he was my hero. So my father used to take me to this jip joint. Down south, they have jip joints. What is a jip joint? Well, jip joint is a hole-in-the-wall place that really was an abandoned building. They put electricity in there and some lights and a jukebox, and that's where they sell liquor, illegal liquor, and that's where people come to hang out.
Okay.
And my father would go there, and he would take me. And my father was a womanizer. Now, I've heard other men say, oh, player, and I associated that with him being a player. But he was really a womanizer. He was such a womanizer where he would bring women to our house and make my mom sleep with me. And my mom used to lay there holding me tight in her arms, crying, knowing that my dad is in their bedroom with another woman. And my mom was young. At that time, she had me when she was 16. And now I'm 5 years old, so she's 21, but still a little young, frail woman. So she used to say, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm going to tell Daddy. I'm going to tell Daddy. So I couldn't wait till morning comes so I can get up and run to the bedroom after the young lady he was with leave and tell him what Mom said. Mama said that she was going to kill you. And he said, listen, son, Women say anything when they're mad. Women say anything under distress. He said, so you can't pay attention to what they say because they're not thinking correctly. They're not thinking right. So I filed that in my mind. Women are crazy. That's the only way I could analyze it. So anyway, my father, 2 or 3 nights later, he takes me and go to the gyp joint. So they're playing the music. Now, another thing he had taught me, he said, women are most happy when they're barefooted and pregnant. He said, women, never let a woman hit you. If she hit you, you hit her back to deter her from hitting you again. So these were little lessons that he was teaching me. Little did I know how wrong he was in the lesson that he was teaching me. He was truly wrong in so many ways, but I'll speak about that later. So as we was watching, a man and a woman was on the floor, but another lady came from the side, and she pushed the other lady to the side, and she talked to the man like pushed her and said, go on. So we're looking, my father's right here, I'm sitting here, side by side. The woman slapped the man. And when I seen this, in my mind, I'm thinking, oh, she shouldn't have did that.
Not according to what your father said.
To what my father said. And when she went to walk away, the man grabbed her and he hit her. But unknown to any of us at that time, he had a .25 caliber gun in his hand. And when he hit her, the gun went off and the bullet hit my father.
Oh, wow.
Right between the eyes.
Wow. So your father passed from that?
My father fell to the floor from that. And I watched him. And I could see women and men, they was all screaming and hollering. And in my mind, I was thinking, why is my daddy on the floor? Why is my daddy laying there and nobody's helping him up? And when they finally, someone did come to help him up, when they turned him over, it looked like he didn't have a face.
Wow.
Because the blood had covered his whole face. And when I saw that, I was crying and really crying. Even now, I still get a little emotional because I'm replaying that scenery, and it's still within my mind because I never forgotten it. And somehow, doing all of it, I passed out. And I don't remember anything after that because when I woke up at home and my mom was crying, my aunts, her sisters was crying, and my other brothers, they was crying. And I'm looking around for my dad, but he wasn't there. That was traumatic for me. Traumatic.
He passed away from that?
He died from that. You used the word, you're being kind, but he died from that.
Right. And at that point, everything falls on your mother.
Yes. When my father died, he had 5 kids. I'm the oldest. He had Robert up under me, then David, and then my sisters, Cynthia, and then Michael, my baby brother. He was only 4 months old when my father died. And my sister was 18 months old. And I was 5, Robert 4, and David 3. We were right behind each other. So after that, my grandfather came, and everyone went to the funeral. And till this day, I can't go to people's funerals. I refused to go to a funeral. Even when my own daughter died, I wouldn't go to a funeral. I wouldn't go. I wouldn't go. Because I never want that image in my mind again. I want to think about people when they was alive, happy, smiling. When I saw my father laying in the casket, he looked like he was sleeping.
Wow.
And I remember, now,
Take your time.
I didn't think I would get emotional like
You're not
this,
the
but
first one, brother. We have feelings. You're a human being.
I shook him, and I was saying, Daddy, wake up, wake up. And my mom came up and grabbed me, and I fought her off because she was taking me from my father. And all he had to do was wake up and get up. That's what I was thinking. And my grandfather took me. I went from her to my grandfather. And, that's
What was
what
your
happened.
grandfather? Was that your mother's father? Or
That
your
was my father's father.
father's father?
Yeah.
Okay, so he's in the same situation. He just lost a son. You just
Yes,
lost a father.
his only son. So,
Oh, wow.
but he took me. He said, told my mom, he's going with me. And my mom said, no, I'm not. He said, he's going with me. He was a very aggressive man. So I went there with him without my siblings. And in a way, at the beginning, I wanted to go because I needed a father image. I needed a father. And he talked to me on the way because we had to drive to another part of Kentucky. I live in Elizabethtown. He lived in Columbia, Kentucky. And he said, I'm going to be your new father. And I said, well, you grandpa. I always call him grandpa. And he said, no, don't call me grandpa, just call me Robert. And I slipped sometime. He said, I told you, boy, don't call me grandpa, call me Robert. He was very aggressive, as I had said, and he was a womanizer as well. And I lived there almost a year. I turned 6. And then I started first grade. And now, Kentucky, at that time, was a racist state. You had
At that time?
At that time, well, it is now, but I'll share. I've seen the change since I've been out. But at that time, it was very racist. The Ku Klux Klans was ride up and down, shooting their guns and ride up and we lived where the black people lived in the black bottom. Everything was named Coloredville or Enville. I don't like saying the N word. And that's where we all lived. It was only about 400 of us. And the whites, they lived all over. Now, my grandfather, he was fortunate enough, he owned his own business, slaughterhouse. They call it Taylor Slaughterhouse.
Was he a white man?
He was black.
Black, okay.
And he also owned a store. But I didn't know until later on that the business and the store was really for the blacks within that community to shop at and to spend their money there, because whites didn't want them going downtown to buy different items. So as time went by, my grandfather started giving me what he called lesson beatings. Now at this time, I'm 8. And by that time, my brothers, sisters, he had came and he went and got them and took them from my mother. We weren't allowed to see our mother for 8 years.
Wow.
8 years. She couldn't visit us. We could talk to her on the phone, but she couldn't visit. She had no dealings with us.
You say he had taken all the children?
Yeah, he brought, I came home from school and all my brothers, my 3 brothers and my sister was there. And it was great seeing them and everything, because when I was there, it was like to desensitize me, to make me dependent only on him so that he could teach me to be the way that he wanted me to be, which he did. And the lesson beatings wasn't because I did anything wrong. He would take me in the woodshed or the smokehouse, and I would get butt naked. And he would use a strap, and he would beat me and beat me. Then he would take salt that they used to cure the ham or whatever, even sausage or whatever. Then he would say, "Come here, boy, come here." And he rubbed my body with that salt. And that hurt worse than the beatings because it burned. Oh, it burned. And I would cry more and cry more, but as time went by, he taught me not to cry, how to take it. And as strange as some of you may think, well, why would he do that? Why? Well, he was doing it because now I was in charge of my brothers. I'm the oldest.
Right.
I'm in charge of my brothers as he's in charge of his brothers. And the leader of my family would be me. So anything that took place, I'm responsible for it. But also, he beat me so that whenever the Ku Klux Klans, if they ever had an opportunity to beat me, their beating would be nothing compared to his beating. And my skin and everything would be hardened so that I can withstand their beating and it wouldn't kill me. Now, I didn't understand this at first. I just knew I was getting a beating for no reason. So I thought my grandfather hated me because why else would you beat someone? That's not love. My father loved me. My grandfather showed his love differently. So that's how that all went about. And those are my memories, learning how to accept beatings, learning how to take orders, and learning how to be in charge of my siblings.
Okay, so your grandfather's taking you through this experience here. All the time this is going on, you say you're how old?
At that time, when he was taking me through it, my father died, and when I was 5, at 6, I went to school. At 7, that's when my brothers and sisters and everyone joined me.
Okay, so
Between 7 and 8.
you're in school at this time.
Yes.
So where was your mind at while you're going through school and all of this is happening at home? Where are you at in your mind?
Well, once again, I have to go back through history. Living in a state such as Kentucky, which I love it, till today I love it, but blacks was treated just a little bit better than a slave. And when you're in school, you had to sit in the back of the school classroom. You couldn't walk in front of a white person. You couldn't talk back to a white person, man or a woman, even a child. And the children, they understood this, so they taunt you, and you better not say nothing to me, I'll tell my daddy. So I had to learn how to live under those conditions. And education-wise, I was illiterate. I was truly illiterate in more ways than one. And the only books that they tried to teach me to read was Green Eggs and Ham, Dr. Seuss books, Jane, Dick, and Sally, Puff. Those are books that they tried to teach me to read. But then they will also make it clear, blacks are not known to be educated. They're known for their manual labor. So you grow up to be a big, strong buck, because they call you buck, and all these different words, colorful words they were. And so in my mind, I didn't think that I needed education. Even though a part of me really wanted education, wanted to learn, because I had what they call an inquisitive mind. And when we talk about Curtis and stuff later on, that was the reason why, because I had what psychiatrists had later on called it split personality, schizophrenia, multiple personalities. These were things that was going on with inside my mind, inside my head, and I was not aware of it because I'm too young to even understand let's say, what sex is all about, let alone what multiple personality was all about.
I get it.
So as time went by, my grandfather, he would beat me, like I said, lesson beatings. Boy, were they lesson beatings. Then teaching me not to cry, because he would say if you cry, the Ku Klux Klan, KKK, or anyone who is beating you, they get off on a person crying. That's how they get their jollies. So I had to learn how to stand there and take it.
He's trying to protect you.
But it was a sick way of protecting a person, but it was protection nevertheless. Because by not being able to show emotion, by not being able to express myself, I became cold, callous, and insensitive to a lot of things that was going on around me. And I didn't like it. I did not like it, but it was my life.
I get it. No,
Now-
quick question.
Go ahead.
You can hold that thought. What year is this?
Okay, I was born in 1958. So we're talking about in the 60s, the early part of the 60s. All right. Matter of fact, excuse me, I remember when Martin Luther King got killed. And I remember all the white people, that N-word, it's good for them, that N-word, this, and And I remember my grandfather being sad, my grandmother, who was white. And that's a whole different story, but
Your who was white?
my grandmother.
Okay.
And so I remember seeing people on TV, and I remember the march that they had, where they marched. I remember the cops spraying them with water and sicking their dogs on them and stuff. And in my mind, I was thinking, oh, they're getting treated like us.
Wow.
So as far as I was concerned, everywhere in the United States, in this world,
Right.
that's the way black people was treated.
Exactly.
And I never saw a Spanish person, Mexican, Jamaican, excuse me, or any of those. It was only black and white. Black and white. The only color difference is light skin and dark skin.
I get it.
So that's the way I grew up. I didn't know there was really any other nationalities because none of them went to our school.
This show has the intent to define what a real OG is, what an original OG is. My partner and I have developed a method to ensure that if someone should sit in front of this OG logo, that they have been authenticated and found to be true in their history as far as what an OG is. So I'm gonna take you to the next phase of this, but before I do that, I wanna interject something that might intrigue you.
Go ahead.
I too was born in 1958. As a child, I lived in Harrodsburg, Kentucky.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that would blow you away. So as you're talking to me, I'm reliving some of this
Yeah.
because I can identify because I've been there. So I want to familiarize myself with you
All right.
so that you could see that we've had a certain journey together and you can know that I understand. This is not my interview, so I'm not going to go in detail with that, but I know what you're saying.
You know what I went through.
Been there.
I know what you
done
went
that.
through.
Been there.
And you
done
was
that.
where?
Harrodsburg.
Harrisburg.
It's down in the south of Kentucky.
Oh, I know where that part is.
Yeah.
And, not to get off the subject though, but when they did bring y'all basketball team and sporting team, we used to whoop y'all butt all the time.
I can
Oh,
tell
yeah.
you some stories about
Oh,
that,
yeah.
but we're going to keep moving, man. That was
All right then.
racist shit right
Yeah,
there.
that too.
But, okay. So we get to that point in your life. I wanted to put that in there because I wanted to ask, at this point, had you experienced any racist episodes in your life, lynchings or anything of that nature?
Well, yes. A friend of mine, well, my best friend, he kissed a little white girl on the cheek in school
In Kentucky.
in Kentucky. And her father was the Grand Poobah, which is the head of the Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
He wear all them funny looking colors and all of that. And they called him, and they had deep in the back of the woods, they had a log cabin. So we used to run back there, and they make moonshine back there. And they had this like a witch's kettle, like this, big witch's kettle you see on TV.
Making
where
witch's brew.
Yeah, the witch's brew. So they make their corn liquor and moonshine, white lightning, and everything else that they call back there, and they have women back there. And the women that they had back there was black women.
Wow.
And they be naked,
Wow.
and we got to see them. And some of them be crying and stuff. I never forget those images. So anyway, now my buddy, my friend, I won't call his name, but they were boyfriend, girlfriend.
Who was they?
The little white girl and my buddy.
Okay.
So he kissed her. So they snatched him up.
How did they find out that he kissed her?
She told.
Oh.
And the teacher also told. The teacher saw it. I'm not going to call her name, even though she's probably been dead for years, but I don't want to give out people's names. Their actions speak way louder than their names.
I get it.
So she told. And I guess she felt that she was obligated to do it. And so when the father asked the daughter, and I understand that he beat her too for allowing this to happen. So they snatched him up and they took him way back in the woods and they beat him and beat him. And then they had what they call tobacco sticks, which is a long stick.
I know.
Tobacco. Yeah,
I know,
you know
what
what
tobacco is.
stick.
Yeah, I hung tobacco.
Because we grew tobacco too on the farm. So they beat him, then they tied him, his feet and his arms like this, and put the tobacco stick through and up through here, and they put him inside hot oil in the witch's brew and in that kettle with hot oil. And I heard other people talk about it, that he screamed and screamed, that his body bubbled up.
They didn't put his head in it?
Yeah, they dipped him in there,
The whole body?
the whole body, and didn't bring it up. But they kept his head up so he wouldn't
that's
die
what
that
I'm
way.
saying. Yeah.
But yeah, and they said he screamed and screamed and screamed. Then they took him and put him on some Burlap bags, they put grain in there and stuff. And they poured feathers all on him. And the feathers, once the body cooled down, it stick to your body all over. And you can't pull them off without taking the skin with it. So the feathers become a part of his body. So then they gathered all of us, everyone, in the Black Bottom, and made us gathered around. and they hung him in a tree right behind the church.
Wow.
And I never forget his mother. She was crying, "Please cut my baby down. Please just cut my baby down."
Wow.
And other people was just, "Cut him down. You done did that to him, cut him down." And they laughed and gave a speech to Grand Poobah. This is what happened when you crossed the line. So I'm crying, and I had my dog with me, Gypsy. And so I ran, and I went where the cabin was. And when I got to the cabin, and our cabin's like almost 3 miles into the woods, but I was a good runner. And I ran, and I was running off hate. Hate was my fuel, my energy. So I wasn't tired of anything. I wanted to get to where they had did that to my friend. And when I got there, the fire was still, it was smothering out, but it was still hot. And I looked, and I finally was able to take a lot of sticks, and I was able to knock and bang and knock until I was able to knock it over. And the oil ran, and good thing it did, it could have fell on me. I didn't think about that. But at the time, it fell. So, and it went inside the cabin, on the outside and inside the cabin. So that's when I came up with the idea, because the fire was still smothering, but I know how to, you're a country boy, you know how to get a fire started. And I set the cabin on fire.
Wow.
I burnt it down.
Did they ever find out?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna say this again real fast. I lived in Harrisburg, Kentucky for about 3 years. You know, I hung tobacco, and I know about cutting tobacco, and you know, things that you and I can identify right now in that conversation. You know, it's not some make-believe shit that I'm just trying to do with you. It's real life. But after doing all of that, seeing that experience, I don't want to get off track. I hated that place so bad. At 13 years old, I hitchhiked from Harrisburg, Kentucky, all the way back to Chicago. My mother thought I'd lost my mind.
Yeah.
I hated that place that bad.
I did too.
Yeah. So now they do this to your friend. How does that make you feel inside about white people?
Well, I was afraid of white people, even though my grandmother's white. My mom is half white. But white people, the real ones, not the tainted one or half one.
No.
The real ones. I was scared to death of them. Everyone was. Because there was time, and I don't know if you ever seen it, where they gather around and call us, "Come here, boy, come here, and they make you come. And then they get the gun, and they shoot and say, "Dance," and they make you dance, and they shoot in the ground, and you got to dance. And a lot of guys got toes shot off. "Oh, he's a good N-word," and they rub the feet. "He'll be all right. He'd be good as new next week," and be dancing again. Or they get shot in the foot, so they walk with a limp. See, I lived around this.
Right.
I grew up with this.
Exactly.
I've seen this. So it took them about a week to realize that I had done it, because someone saw me in that area. They saw me coming back because the fire was there. And they took my grandfather. Now, like I said, my grandfather was a gangster. Regardless of what he did to me, he had his reasons. But he was a gangster. He had been to prison 4 different times. He had killed 3 different men. And as part of the business that he was allowed to have, he had to keep black people in check. And if they got out of check and stuff, it was his job too. He was the slave master slave who, it's sad to say it, but who oversee the black people that lived in that community.
I bet you I understand.
Oh, I know you do. I see that look on your face. And so they were scared of him, but, you know, I don't care how tough you are, a shotgun filled with special bullets, shells, it'll break anyone down. So they talked to him, called him outside. They was out on the porch. And I knew it was talking about me. And I never seen my grandfather emotionally sad. So he called me in the house. Come here, Bug. Call me. It's Junebug, but call me Bug. Come here, Bug. Come here, boy. Did you set their cabin on fire? I said, yes, sir. Why did you do it? Because they killed my friend. Why did you do it? Because they killed my friend. No. You doing that could not have saved your friend. You doing that could not have helped your friend. Your friend was dead. So now they want to do something to you. So I'm going to have to pay them and do things for them so that they don't do nothing to you. I didn't know how to feel because he had taught me not to feel. I didn't know what to think because an illiterate person who was in Mr. Kemp's, well, he was my teacher, school, they call it the retard class. So being a retard was expected of me. So I expected to act like a retard. So it was sad. He had to pay off a debt. He had to pay. And the crazy thing was, he always taught me during the beatings, protect your family, protect your family. Always protect your family. Well, my best friend was my family.
Right.
So I had to protect him in some kind of way. I couldn't do nothing to them, but I could do something. And I didn't really go there to burn it down. That came as a second thought later on.
Right.
But anyway, to show you how things, you don't want to teach everyone to do something. I had turned 12 later on. And my grandfather, he had stopped the lesson beatings because I guess the look, I used to stand there and take it when I was 11. So at 12, I never got no lesson beatings. I look at him with hate in my eyes, like, I'm going to kill you. And I guess he recognized it because he probably looked at his own father the same way. So he took it out on my brothers. He never beat my sister. So we all got a D. I got a D. Rest of my brothers got an F in conduct in school, which I got F. I was proud of my D. At least it wasn't an F.
Right.
Yeah. So, and at that time we had the Michael Jackson afro. That's when, I'm quite sure you had one too, yeah. The big Michael Jackson afro. And I love my afro.
In Kentucky.
In Kentucky. And he took my brothers, 3 of them and myself, and he started with me, cut my afro off. I was as bald as I am now. I love it now, but at that time I did not love it. And then he did Robert, and he did David, and he was doing Michael, my baby brother. So now I done snuck over, because we're in the slaughterhouse at this time, and I snuck over to where he kept the rifle. And my Uncle David Lee was there. So I got the rifle, and I point the rifle at him. And I said, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill you. So I'm pointing the rifle at him. I'm protecting my brothers. All those beatings and stuff was to make me strong enough to protect my brother. So that meant to me, even against him.
I get it.
So the coward, I never thought of him as a coward, but at that time I saw him as a coward because he picked my baby brother from the barbershop chair, because he was haircutter as well, and put my brother in front of him and held my brother in front of him as protection.
Right.
And then my Uncle David Lee, he was trying to sneak around from me. So now I'm distracted. My mind is trying to, you coward, you coward. And then I put the gun on my Uncle David Lee on this side of me. And when I did that, he threw my brother. He didn't set my brother down. He threw my brother and then turned around to go to the door, but I fired a quick shot and it caught him in the shoulder and spun him around. And then he ran out the door. So I ran after him. But when I got outside, I didn't know where he was at. And now I'm scared to death because I know he's going to kill me. He couldn't take it like a man. So he's going to save his life by putting my brother's life. And he knew me and my brother, even till today, we're like this. That's my heart, even till this day. And if I sound like I'm a little angry, I am a little angry because. So once realization hit me, I dropped the gun because my Uncle David Lee's coming out. He tried to grab me, and I ran. I ran into the woods. Now, the woods is a lot of woods in Kentucky. Well, you know, a lot of woods, a lot of mountains. Mm-hmm. And I ran, and I ran, and I ran. And this time I'm running on fear, not anger, fear.
Yeah, two different things.
Yes. So to cut it short, I lived in the woods 7 days, 6 nights, 7 days. And on that 7th day, finally, my brother, I let him find me. But only because my grandmother, God bless her, Miss Cleo, on the farm part, on the 3rd day, I had snuck and she fed me. She said, boy, don't let Robert kill. He gonna kill me? He gonna kill me? She said, no, I don't know. We never know with him. And she fed me and gave me not a handkerchief, but a towel with food in it, biscuit and some chicken. I went and I ate that. And now I'm living in the woods, like I said. On the 7th day, my brother Michael, I let him, and I said, Robert gonna kill me? He said, no. I said, you mean I didn't kill him? And my grandmother said the same thing. No, you got him in the shoulder. And my brother said, no, you didn't get him good, but you got him. You got him. He was like happy, like, you got him. I said, so what? He said, well, he wants you to come home. I ain't coming home. He said, he's not gonna hurt you, but you gotta leave your home. You gotta go and live with mama in New York. I said, he's sending me away? He said, yeah. You're going to New York, live with our mama. I said, Michael, listen, man, you're not lying to me, are you? You're not, because I know my grandfather and him, they was tight. I said, come on, man, you're not trying to trick me, are you? And I was squeezing him. He said, no, I wouldn't do that to you. So I went back. And when I got back, my grandfather, because they didn't know we was coming. And I walked in the house, my grandfather was sitting in his chair. He looked at me. and they had his arm in a sling like this. And he was looking at me. He didn't say a word. He got up. He said, called my grandmother. He said, Marilee, pack your stuff. Pack your stuff. And he walked out. He just walked. When he walked by me, I jumped because I'm thinking he's going to hit me or grab me. He walked past me and walked out. And my Uncle David Lee came and they packed my stuff up. And that's when I came to Rochester.
Now, when you walked in that house, did you feel any hate coming from your grandfather? And did you have any hate in you when you walked in the house?
I had fear in my heart. See, when you fear someone the way we feared our grandfather, he drove a red Jeep. If you see the Jeep, you think it's him. It scares you.
You saw a red Jeep.
Yeah, you saw a red
Right.
Jeep. You hide because that's how much fear. Not only everyone in that community feared him. So when I walked in that house, it was fear. It wasn't hate. I was scared. I love my brother, but still there's that little doubt that he may be trying to trick me. So, and from him, I didn't see no hate. I saw a sadness. And he just looked at me. And he got up and he left. Now, Uncle David Lee, who took me to the airport, he told me, he said, I told Robert, that's his brother. He said he was only doing what you taught him to do. You taught him to protect his family. And that boy was his family. We all knew that they was closer than fleas. He said, so he was only doing what you taught him to do. And my grandfather said, yeah, but I never expected him
To do it to me.
He said, yeah, to do it to him. So that was that.
How long did you stay in the Army?
Just a few months.
What happened?
Well, Curtis, which is a personality of mine, alter ego personality, he wanted to come back to the city.
Let's stop before you go there.
All right.
Back up a little bit. Now, how did that happen with the manifestation of Curtis and your introduction to Mackin? How did that work?
Well,
In what order?
First, I have to share with you how Curtis came about. After the death of my father, I was so shocked and still in not the right frame of mind that I would still talk to my father. And then my mom used to beat me and say, your daddy's dead, boy. And so I changed his name from Daddy to Curtis. Now, Curtis used to be my protector, my big brother, he was everything as far as strength-wise.
Right.
So even when I used to get the beatings and everything, he took the beatings for me.
Right.
That's how tight of a bond we had amongst each other. So anyway, now, when I was back to the city now, I hate switching back and forth, but
okay,
you
we got
asked me, I try to answer. When I saw my first pimp, he had a red convertible Cadillac, and he had 5 white girls in the car with him. And he was, 2 was up front driving, 3 was in the back, and he was sitting on the back of the hood of the car. And I told my friend Andre, I said, man, Ku Klux Klan gonna kill that. And I actually used the N-word.
Right.
He started laughing. He said, no, he's a pimp. I said, a what? he's a pimp. I said, a pimp? What's a pimp? And he explained to me what a pimp was. And I said, so you mean to tell me you can, what's that word again? He said, pimp. You can pimp white women? And he said, yeah. So I knew right then and there I was going to be a pimp. And I was going to pimp me some white women.
Wow.
Now, try to understand the reason that I had at that time. Growing up down south, remember I told you at those, at the cabin, the one I burnt down? They had black women there,
Right.
naked and dancing, and some was crying and everything. See, when I came to the city and I finally learned what a pimp was and prostitutes were, I started seeing things that I missed before because I had no knowledge of it.
I get it.
So I never chose a black woman to be a prostitute for me. I chose all the nice looking white women. And at that time, there weren't a whole lot of them.
To choose from.
Right. So I did it, and black women would say, well, I want to be with you, you know. I want to be with you. And I said, no, and I tried to explain to them that down south, I don't want to build my empire on the backs of black women. I want to do it on the back of white women. Now, like I said, this is how I feel, because I don't want to get no hate mail or no threats and nothing saying, well, you married a white woman and everything, but we'll get into that. That's how I felt then. Life have a funny way of, you imitate that which you learn.
You ain't lying.
And I learned how they mistreated black women, so I mistreated white women. I was wrong, terribly wrong. But anyway, that's how that came about. Next thing you know, I had 18 white women. I got to mention this because this is very important. Once I learned about pimp and what they was allowed to do, and even though I even learned that it was against the law to even be a pimp, but in the street world, you either pimp or you're a thief or you, and they didn't have a lot of drugs to sell because cocaine was considered the white
Rich
guy's
man's
high
high,
or the
yeah.
rich man high. And down, you know, Bumpy Johnson, all them people, they had dope. And that's hell up in Harlem and all of that. That's how all that came about. So black guys, especially the Jamaicans and stuff, they had weed, or they call them tree or marijuana. I want to be a pimp. But like I said, I had to find someone to teach me. So I started, there was one lady, I won't call her name, but she was a prostitute, but I didn't know she was a prostitute. And her man, I'm coming by her house having sex with her for free because I thought she was my girlfriend.
Right.
So I walked in one day and the guy was there, her pimp. He was sitting in the chair. He was fly, boy, he was all sharped out. And I came in and I could tell something was wrong by the way she was acting. So he had that funny accent. He, come on in, Ma. So I came in. He said, have a seat. I had a seat. So while he talking, that's my bit over there, and you screwing my bit, and you making me lose money because she could be getting paid for that. So in my mind, I'm thinking, what do you mean screwing his, that's my girlfriend.
Right.
But that wasn't the case. So while we're talking, he's not watching me. He's so busy talking because he's bigger than me and everything. I reached my hand back there and I always carry my 007 knife. And it slipped it out, slid it right here under my leg. He don't even see it. So we're talking. Now he got a gun on me, a little 38. He said, either you gonna pay or you gonna die. He said, now, I'm a pimp. And when he said he was a pimp, that changed everything. I said, you a
Fear
pimp?
left.
He said, yeah, man, that's what I said. I'm a pimp. I said, you a pimp? You mean a real life? He said, that's what I said, man. I said, oh, man, because I want to be a pimp. You think you could teach me?
He looking at you like
Yeah,
you crazy.
he looking at me like you looking at me right now. Like what? Yeah, I'm getting ready to shoot you, and you talking about you want me to become your
Got a
mentor.
deal.
It was crazy because I finally found somebody who was a pimp who could teach me, and he agreed to it. Excuse me. So he said, you know what, man? You're going to have your first hoe. That's going to be your first bit right there. I said, but that's my girl. He said, no, you said you want to be a pimp. I said, all right. He said, that's your bitch. I said, come here. He said, call her a bitch. I said, come here, bitch. Come on in here, bitch. So she came, she looked at me. He said, you with him now? I said, yeah, you with me now. I don't know what the hell I was saying. I'm just repeating.
Yeah.
So next thing you know, I ended up with her and other women. And then everything changed.
So now, in the process of all of that, you began to develop what you recognize as a split personality.
Yes.
So how does Curtis come into play?
Well, like I said, Curtis was my father, my best friend. He was all of that in my mind and stuff. But as time went by, he started even taking control of my body. Now, I don't want you to think that I'm crazy. I don't want you to think that I'm on some type of medication. I'm telling you the truth. I can't sit there and be truthful with you. Then I'm not going to do the interview.
Right.
So I'm straightforward. It got to the point, I didn't know that this was happening. Guys would tell me, man, you did this last night, you did this. I said, no, I didn't, I was at home. They said, yeah, but you said your name was Curtis, and Curtis Fly Johnson,
Okay.
the third.
Damn, the third.
Yeah, well, he'll tell you. So turns around, I used to have real bad headaches, and I actually blank out. That's why they gave me a medical discharge from the Army.
Oh, okay.
The medical discharge. I didn't do the 2 years.
Okay.
And I got an honorable discharge, but it was medical.
Right.
So Curtis wanted to go back to that lifestyle. And when I left, I went back to that lifestyle. And guys used to say the pimpin' dummy.
So now Curtis has already come into existence in the military.
Yes,
Okay, now you come out with Curtis.
yes,
And Curtis is convincing you to take he and you back
right.
into that life.
Get into that life.
Okay. So why don't we do this? Why
don't we let Curtis tell his own story?
Yeah. Let's meet
Okay,
Curtis.
All right.
You know, this ain't no joke here. You know, we want to look at, you go in the military, you have some issues where you have to do a little time in the asylum. You come out of the military, and at this time, you come out of the military with Curtis?
Yes.
Okay, so why don't you introduce the audience and myself? I've never met Curtis. Why don't you introduce us to Curtis?
Okay, then. This is my friend. My friend. I'm just going to call him as Dad. All right? So I said, now we're just friends. Yeah, we're just friends. All right? And his name is Curtis Fly Johnson III. On the third dummy cut on that particular tree. And his father and his mother is number one and number two. That's why he called himself the third. So when I came back to Rochester, I didn't know that Curtis was taking over my body. Of course you didn't know. I didn't let you know. And as time went by, my mom seen that I had problems. Snitch. She didn't snitch on you. She didn't snitch. So she ended up taking me to the Rochester State Hospital because that's where she worked at. And next thing you know, they did a lot of CAT scans and all of this other type of stuff. And The psychiatrist said, well, listen, what's happening with you? You having a split personality. He didn't call me by name. No, he didn't call you by name. He just said that I was having what they call split personality, and that you was trying, and I did try. I really did. I know you did. He tried to take over my body. And that was something that was difficult because I had to fight to keep him from taking over my body. Now, I didn't have this body for him. Let me make that clear. It was all within my mind.
Okay.
There was no body. So the psychiatrist told me, he said, well, the best way to work this out is that you have to go get him a body. And I'm glad you got me one. I'm glad I got you one too, buddy. And I never knew nothing about these stuff, how to work them or anything like that. I just knew that his thoughts, then I started hearing them real good. I mean,
Once you got the body.
once I got the body, because it was an outlet where before I used to hear it in my mind. It's dark up there too. It was dark up there. And so now I could actually talk to him and
Wow.
see him just like we're interacting now. But at that time, I was so good that I could talk without really moving my lips. I moved mine, yeah, because you're supposed to move yours. I wasn't supposed to move mine, and I didn't. You do now, you're fucking up. Yeah, well, that's the way it goes.
Okay, so
So
let's talk to Curtis for a minute.
first of all, what's his name? That's Mr. Rick. Is he a pimp? Well, he used to be. Then I'll talk to him.
Oh, you only talk to pimps, Curtis?
Oh, shit, I did love this shit.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
So how did you first get involved with this whole situation here?
After his daddy
With
got
Chris.
killed. Yeah, you call it an accident. I call it he was killed. Well, he was shot and he died. And that's when I was born. He was born then.
And you walked around in his head for how long?
Years. I took a lot of shit. And for years I saved him. Even in prison, I saved him. Yes, you did. They would have fucked him 5 different ways if it wasn't for me. Okay, we're not going to go there.
So what was your first relationship with street life?
Well, when I seen all them white girls, I just knew I had to have them. So, and I knew the way he felt. So, we had nothing but white girls, didn't we? I had 9, he had 9. And that's the truth. I control my 9s. They listened to him as he controlled his 9. 18, some of them were beautiful. Well, that fat one you had wasn't shit. Well, anyway, but some of them was beautiful and some of them, you know, they was fat. But I did it for numbers at that time.
So
Should have lost weight. Go ahead.
how did you control your 9?
I threatened to kill him. You ask for the truth, it's the truth. With fear. See, a bitch don't understand nothing but fear. You all right? You put a foot in the ass, and I can't put a foot in the ass because my foot don't work. But if I put in his mind to kill him, then he'll do it. And that's what I was doing.
How did you express that you were going to kill him?
Or I'll tell him, bitch, come over here. I'll kill you, or I'll get my man to kill you and fuck you up.
You thought they took you serious?
You damn right they did.
Or did you think that you would have them killed?
I take the 5th.
Oh, okay. So,
You still on parole, right? Yeah. All right, I take the 5th.
right. So while you're having this journey, you encounter a situation where a young lady loses her life.
Yes, we did.
How were you a part of that situation?
I had nothing to do with that. That was his girl. That was all on him.
It was none. What didn't have to do with your 9.
No. No, 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 no.
So
You're not going to send me to prison. You, no.
the documents say that you end up going to prison for it as well. We have created this show so that men and women alike can come forward and tell their truth. If you have people that you believe to be an OG, go into the comment section, write us, let us know where to find the history so that we can authenticate it, bring them on the show, tell their story so that we can add to the American history. That's it. That's all.
The original OG.